Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to some more DBD League today. It's going to be Trauma versus Sinners in a set which I know that I'm very excited for because we have some absolutely phenomenal killers coming out. Yeah, people like their M1s. They like their you can pretend that you like Demogorgon, you can pretend that you like Ghostface, but let's be real, where it's at are these fast-paced, high-intensity, top-tier killers, Nurse, Mastermind, and if we even are able to get to it, Spirit at the end of the day. I'm joined today by specTral, who's going to be on the sticks with me for the time being. How are you feeling?
Honestly, dude, I'm feeling really weird today. Just woke up like around 15 minutes ago. Got up, realized I had to cast for DBDL, and next thing I know, I'm casting Trauma versus Sinner. So this is definitely going to be a very surprising match. Trauma, known to be the second best team in the world at one point, and now coming back into DBD League and facing a very tough SA team who was known to be the best SA team and to be able to compete with a lot of teams outside of their region very easily. So this is definitely going to be a very exciting matchup. We're looking at Nurse being picked by Trauma today. How do you think that's going to go, Edgar?
Well, we were just able to see that Nurse series at the tail end of the last match. What we know is that our expectations can vary kind of wildly. Going over to playing on the Coal Tower, it's a map where you can do some pretty good things on the Nurse. There aren't as many LOS blockers as there would be on something, say, like a Groaning Storehouse, for instance. But it's still always going to be a struggle. Not just because the expectations for Nurse are so high, but because every single day that the game gets played, every single match, every single scrim, the survivors just get better and better. You know, we are far away from the days where the Nurse is a guaranteed 4K at 4 gens. I think last match we saw a 4K one, and then even just like a full 5 gens completed as well. Expectations can vary wildly. That's
That's
what we're looking at today.
that is what we love. I'm not gonna lie. That's something that we all love and appreciate because it's so boring to see. Because don't get me wrong, Nurse is an incredibly powerful killer, but it's so boring to see the same result every single time and for the only difference to be one gen. Like that's so boring. Be outs, be stages. And that's what they've done. After they moved or removed a bunch of things that Nurse can do, changed their add-ons, did everything that they could. The I mean, we just have such an easier game now to where we're actually looking at more stages to where it could be a 4K 0, it could be a 3K 9. There's so many stages that come into question. It's just genuinely a very good game to watch now. And now Sinner's picking Mastermind, which I know exactly who's going to be playing Mastermind for them, but I'm surprised Trauma didn't ban Mastermind. That is a really big question there, Edgar, because we know exactly how strong Sinner's Mastermind is, and I'm fairly certain we're probably going to be seeing him a lot today, huh?
We Jason. I mean, I've not been too familiar with Sinners as you are. You seem to be a little more educated on this point. That being said, I have heard We Jason. I've heard that name before. Seems to be a little bit of a specialist on Mr. Wesker. That's always going to be fun to see. I think if we did want to talk about these teams in a little bit more context for the tournament right now, um, Sinners, the proof's in the pudding. You mentioned earlier maybe the best SA team currently playing. Right now, Sinners don't have a single win under their belt. They are currently last place, 0 set wins compared to Trauma, who are in the middle of the standings, 2-2, about a 37.5% win rate, which still isn't ideal, but 0 to 37, I mean, like, if you're a betting man, then you'd probably want to put your money on Trauma here, right? That being said, upsets could always happen, especially in esports where it's just a case of how people can play on the day. You know, maybe we Jason, I don't know, did like maybe we Jason just took like 3 Dr. Peppers before the game or something, and then just becomes an absolute nutcase on the Wesker.
I mean, that is definitely a big chance here. Think about it. They're probably like literally scrambling for their win. They're trying their best to move forward because let's be honest here, man. We Sinners looking at an 0-4 record is definitely not something you expect to see out of the best SA team. They could compete with their entire region, but now they have to prove to all of us, and they have. But they need to come back because remember, this is an old gen team. These guys have played years ago when other players were around, when other players were in the prime, when there were much difficult killers, when we still had hug techs, when we still had broken nurse things, when everything was just so old and when the results were so much different. It was just a different time period. They need to adapt and come back now because we are literally watching them struggle here, and I know for a fact they can win this. It's going to be difficult, but they can win this. I'd put my money on Sinners out of love for Phantom and of course for my boys in South America, but we got to see how it
you
goes.
might be the hope for one here, specTral. You might be the hope for one here. I want to bring it right back to earth, and I'm just going to have to pray trauma. The proof is in the pudding right now, and Sinners have had so many opportunities to win all of these matches, and they just don't. They're not able to convert time and time again. So I reckon it's going to be Trauma taking their win, going 3-2 with these matches played out. However, we don't even have to go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going to get right into it. Going to be the nurse on the Coal Tower. Time for Autumn Sadness to get some work done.
In this moment right now, hold on, Edgar. I need to quickly take care of something. Could you take this real fast?
Understandable. Anyway, so Autumn Sadness is going to be quickly going around, already finding the Nancy out in the open right here. There's only so much work that you can do around the edge of the map. Generally, that's the play against a nurse. Play the edge map, play your corners, play your cover. But with the first hit coming out onto Cafulio very, very quickly, it seems like, yep, and that's a down. Remember what we're talking about. Your margin for error against a nurse is just so unbelievably slim. And Autumn Sadness doing some wonderful work right now. Even using the sprint burst there was Cafulio. Feels like almost a cosmetic perk at the end of the day. Not doing a whole lot of anything. That being said, Survivors are at least taking some good initiative on the gens in the meanwhile. There is going to be some regression coming through there, and it seems like we're going to have to contend with the Survivors POV for a little bit. The spectator bug still very much in full force, but it's actually going to be really interesting to be seeing this from the Survivor perspective, how they choose to overcome this. That totem is going to be gone soon, so that is going to be the Ruin, I believe, which is going to be going down. Actually protected by the Undying, so not an issue for the time being. With Phenom actually being caught out here, we finally have Autumn Sadness' POV back on. So it wasn't just hard face camping. This is comp DBD, but it's not quite that bad, you know?
Yeah, and especially now that we're actually going to be looking at a quick chase now. Shaq, they do have a few tags on top of them. They also have Fragile Wheeze acting as substitute to Sloppy Butcher. But honestly, dude, these like bugs make this game so hard to watch real quick. However, it seems like everything is well and dandy, as now we're actually going to be seeing Cafulio going down. That is the Nancy. And now, unfortunately, running into the killer there to see if they can maybe die in a better spot. And also forcing DS here, which is actually a very smart decision. They're going to have an opportunity to keep running forward and maximizing their distance, using the edge map to their advantage. They are not going to be able to double back on top of that directly, so that is going to be unfortunate for the Nancy. As honestly, I probably would have stayed around that corner, expecting them to overblink that, obviously. But unfortunately for them, that is going to be the down, and not much time wasted, but that was a bit of time there. And I don't know if that's going to be enough for Genzo, because remember, we are crawling to the middle. They could wiggle out here. That is the second gen as well. Unfortunately, not going to be the case.
Fortunately, Wee Jason was the Deliverance survivor, and even though we know that having Deliverance increases your chances of being targeted first by about 50%, luckily Wee Jason seemed to avoid that fate, so is going to have that up when this game gets into its dying stages. Cafulio, to be honest, not likely going to be long for this world, no matter how long that they let him hang for, whether they go for the save at any time soon or not. Cafulio is just going to die. Simple as that. So if you're the Survivors here, you want to do as much damage to the gens as possible, make life as difficult for Autumn Sadness before Cafulio goes down. That 1v3 is absolutely key. Even on weaker killers, it can, you know, change the prospect of the game completely. And on a killer like Nurse, well, it just guarantees your victory.
Looking at a 1-for-1 very fast here from Wee Jason's. Wee Jason's actually not going to be hooked, meaning that we're going to be committing to Cafulio for a while. Not going to be committing to that second blink, which is a very smart decision, as actually it seems like they're going to be running into basement to waste a lot more time. But unfortunately, no, not going to survive the blinks to run all the way down into basement. But they did make it no matter what, meaning that they are going to have to hook down here without risking of them wiggling out. or them repositioning while they're trying to hook upstairs. Very smart decision there. And now Sinners is going to be in a slightly better spot as they did end up picking Wee Jason up, so making this a fair 3v1. But it is a 3v1 at 3 gens, Edgar. This is not going to be easy at all.
Sanders does have his pop goes the Weasel, but not quite going to the correct generator there. Finding one with some progress on it, but in the meantime, one across the map is going to be flying through. Instead, going to get the kick on here, and now you got to keep your eyes peeled. Who is it that you're going to find? Ideally, from the Autumn Sanders POV, you would find Wee Jason, that injured survivor, get him down nice and quick. But remember that Wee Jason does have the deliverance, so it's not like it's a massive deal. Actually, also going to have the will make it as well. So a very kind of evasive, kind of lone wolf sort of build from Wee Jason, which seems to kind of check out now. Autumn Sanders is going to be finding the chase onto the K, but some nice juice coming out there from Sweet Child. More juice than an orange factory.
Definitely. I think right now, oh, that was a very, very good blink, but unfortunately they did hold that second blink, so that is going to be a bit of a mistake there. Right there is going to be a tag onto Sweet Child. Sweet Child is actually going to be running in towards the double window right now. This could be a 2-tap right here. Good double back, losing the sight of him, and another double back. The Sweet Child is going to completely lose Autumn Sadness, and Autumn Sadness is going to be leaving the chase to go over towards another gen, which is a very smart decision considering how good of a setup Sweet Child has there. They would have to catch them out of position, and they do end up popping that gen, making it a 4K1 possible result. Tag there onto Phantom, as Phantom is actually going to be running down towards the bottom side of the map. Could be looking at another 2-tap here, and unless they are able to play this correctly, does not connect to the second blink, and that is not going to be a 2-tap, as they are going to be more well positioned right now in this moment. Dropping that pallet, charging up the second blink again, which is just a big mistake that a lot of nurses make, not expecting to be able to get that down in one blink, but they do commit to the one blink this time, and they finally get the down onto Phantom.
These survivors are playing line of sight absolutely beautifully. This is a textbook example on how to be playing against a nurse. Now, yes, a lot of the chases are still ending in record time, but you can still create some distance, make some time against a killer as strong as the nurse, and these survivors are proving it right now. Perfect blink for Autumn Sanders, however, almost locking straight onto Sweet Child, definitely taking advantage of the fact that Kate is injured to try and track him through the walls. Autumn Sanders actually not too willing to leave right now, wants to get this lineup. Is it going to be possible? Would have been a snipe of the century, would have been a nice little shot, a good clip for sure, but not going to do anything, and that's a little more time that's wasted. Phenom able to be healed up in that time. Remember, Wee Jason did get the unhook and had the will make it, so a heal coming out at lightning speed. And Phenom is now just going to be pressuring out Shaq as well. Wee Jason just seems to be kind of the glue holding this team together. Hasn't been doing wonders for the gens necessarily, but in terms of everything else, you know, keeping pressure off the other survivors, rescuing them off the hook, healing them up, hiding when it needs to be done. Really strong survivor play coming out right now.
Definitely. Now we're actually going to be seeing a very fast tag. Autumn, understanding that Wee Jason did end up going for the save, is going to grab that tag onto Wee Jason. Now, Wee Jason does have a med kit, and whether they're able to fully reset themselves is a question for him and himself. But now we're going to have to see a good chase from Sweet Child, which unfortunately was not presented to us, as Sweet Child did not have much to work with to break line of sight and is going to go down because of it. But even with that being said, we are now going to be seeing that self-reset coming through from Wee Jason, meaning that Sweet Child may have a chance to still be alive here. Now the big problem is for Sinners is that the one gen that has a lot of progress is currently in danger, as the heartbeat is right next to it, meaning that the killer is nearby and is now looking for Phantom. Autumn Sadness checking the edge map tiles to see if they can maybe find Phantom here. Sweet Child is going to be picked up, and no sights on anyone just yet, but no, instead we get a very fast tag onto Phantom, and this is actually very, very bad. This Phantom should have ran topside when he had a chance. Now going to be running into the killer. Autumn Sadness is going to down Phantom super fast, and now is going to have a hook right next to the gen, meaning Edgar that he's about to get a pop directly on top of the one gen with the most progress in the game right now.
And you could tell that all of the eggs were in the basket for this Shaq generator over here. The one up top in the main building just kind of being ignored by the survivors in favor of the one by Shaq, and now that's going to be popped, and Autumn Sadness again has the hook here and is just defending kind of everywhere at once. The long reach of the nurse is a very real problem, as Wee Jason is going to be starting the long and tedious process of trying to pressure this topside gen. Maybe in a perfect world, you hope that the nurse just ignores it for the rest of the time being, but Phenom is dying if that happens. Simple as that. Autumn Sanders is just hovering in this mid-map point here. Is finally going to commit to this generator. Does get the hit through onto Jason. Sweet Child has to be getting the unhook on Phenom right now. We'll be doing it! Autumn Sadness, you are going for some absolutely crazy snipes, my guy. They're not always paying off, but they're damn sure flashy with it.
Very, very, very exciting, because now we're actually going to be looking at some juicer plays here from Jason, moving around there almost as if he was spinning, but it was just good pathing. Unfortunately for Jason, he did not end up getting through the nurse there at the end, but that is actually probably going to be enough, as they're going to be doubling that gen. Remember, this is Deja Vu also on top of the gen, meaning that they're going to have more speed, that one survivor. I think that could be enough, as Autumn is taking a little bit of time here to hook Jason, but remember, Jason has deli. They could quickly pop the deli, move up towards the top side of the map. I mean, they have no reason to wait right now, as we do see that deli coming through. Is that going to be enough for them to be able to commit to that gen? And it seems like that is going to be the case, as they do end up popping. And now Sweet Child out of position, going to be blinked on, going to be taking a very quick tag here. One blink charging up, going up to 2. Are we going to be seeing a down here? And it seems like no, not on Sweet Child, but instead going to be on Phantom. No, wait, double backing, and actually going to be faking them out. Very good pathing direction from Sweet Child is going to get them out of the situation and actually on the map right now, but it seems like they're actually going to be running over to where Jason is now. Whether they're going to have that chance to make it over there just in time, because remember, it is going to be a nurse, is a very big question, and it seems like it's so close. They're going to be running over. They're going to have to use a heal tech right now, as it seems like Jason's going to be on top of him, but no, they're not going to be able to heal them in time, and he's going to get picked up. That is so unfortunate for Sinners, but they did get a 2-out, Edgar. Wait.
Well, you say that. You say there's a 2-out, but Phenom is still stuck here. Wasn't close enough to the exit gate right now. Sweet Child is going to be going on this hook, and yeah, Phenom hasn't escaped, and what are your options right now? You just kind of have to chill out here, hope that the killer just doesn't have eyeballs or something like that, doesn't have a functioning set of ears. Autumn Sanders, though, doesn't know exactly where Phenom is, and might be called out that there's a brief window of opportunity. It'll be a very bold play if Phenom wants to try and get this save onto Sweet Child, but no. Thinks better of it. Very fortunately is able to get out. That is the 2-man out. Really, really strong survivor performance coming out here from Sinners.
That was a death and a first hook, so that is actually a very, very, very good result on Nurse, because a 4K is very, very possible. And another thing that I know is possible is getting outs here, because Trauma can still make this out here, but I would like to say Sinners does have a chance to do this. Now, it really does depend on their nurse. But with that being said, that is going to be it here for the first game of the first set here at the DBD League. We will see you all after our intermission and these hopefully short messages. Hello and welcome everyone back to the one and only DBD League. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your caster specTral, joined here by the one and only EdgarTheRuiner. Very, very well-known caster. Now we're actually going to be watching the second match of the first set, which is going to be Trauma versus Sinners on Nurse. Right now, going to be Trauma on Survivor and Sinners on the Nurse, which is going to be Phantom. Edgar, now we did see a 2-out 9 stage earlier, which was a very, very, very good result for Nurse. Do you believe that Phantom, which we do know is a super, super good Nurse, is going to be able to pull that off? Now, remember, it's very difficult, but you think that's possible?
All I'll say is this. By this point, Autumn Sanders already had a down and a hook. And right now, Phenom is whiffing far too many of these. And I know that seems really harsh, but when you're dealing with these margins, it's so important. And like, quite annoyingly, it's not that we haven't seen this from Sinners before, where they have such a phenomenal survivor performance, and then they just get let down anyway. Like, look at the gen progress. There's already this gen is already going to be completed over here. That being doubled up by the Ace and the Nia as well. We are going to have this vibe put on a hill, so now Pop Goes the Weasel is here, but with Ruin still up, you're not actually going to be able to do anything about that. Until Ruin Undying's gone, your Pop is going to be all but cosmetic. It's not like you mind particularly, you still have some strong aggression going through, but you are in essence down a perk until 2 of your other perks have been cleansed. And as I say that, in perfect unison, like 2 peas in a pod, 2 bullets in a mag, they end up going down as well. Phenom, not going to be doing anything fancy here, is going to be holding this blink in range to try and both hold these gens and the hook at the same time. But actually, with the blink in here, there's a small window of opportunity for Swatter to be taken off the hook, but it doesn't necessarily matter. I think we all know that Swatter was chosen to be the dead target and is just going to go down for it. Interestingly enough, Esclair being forced to heal up ideally would have been the ones to get the save onto Swatter so that you could proc that deliverance nice and early. Instead, it might be interesting to see whether Esk actually waits for Swatter to go stage 2 before trying to get that unhook instead.
We did see earlier something I love to see in comp is a nurse vaulting the window. Every single time, man. But Phantom still keeping
It's not really
his
vaulting
wits.
the window, it's more floating through the window, right?
Oh, well, you have a point. You have a point, and now I really want to hurt you. Like, just a knuckle on the chin, I guess.
You wouldn't be the first. Anyway, Phenom is going to be sticking on here on this high ground for the time being. Yeah, holding the hook here. It seems like it is just going to be a hard camp onto Swatter. This makes life a little difficult for S, but with the hit coming through, is able to get that save off. So the deliverance is going to be propped. Some people might say, well, what if it isn't a safe hook? Well, by virtue of the new borrowed time, it's impossible to not get a safe unhook. So that doesn't really matter. And some nice delay that is going to be coming out from Swatter. Knows that they're dead to rights here. Not a whole lot that can be done about that, but every single second bought is going to be out of your, especially because Esk actually has the Unbreakable. Not afraid to use it to just get the hell out of dodge, and that's going to be another gen pop-in from the side of Autumn Sadness. Want to also see where Grenout is. Only 50% progress on this gen isn't really what you want at this stage. Ideally, when you're giving up the life of your teammate, you would have 3 gens popped by this point. But it seemed like there was a little bit of a dance between Esk being the one injured and also trying to get the save to go for the deliverance play. Point is, if you are the survivors right now, you really want this chase to go on to Esk and no one else, to be honest.
Well, honestly, they're not in a horrible spot right now. Phantom is actually looking at roughly the same pace that Autumn Sadness was able to achieve in the last game, having a kill at 3 gens. Now, the only question is will Phantom let history repeat itself, and will Trauma be able to pull off what Sinners did and completely destroy a 3v1 with 3 gens remaining and get a 2 out off it? Now, that is very possible. We're talking about Trauma here, a very, very well and good experienced team. So this is definitely very possible, especially since they're now actually all splitting the gens. That is going to be the 3rd gen of the game popping right now, as they're actually going to be chasing Grenout on the edge map. Grenout in a bit of a spot here, might be M1s here, but maybe no, not just yet. Going to be committing to that second blink to, of course, reposition himself, since he did end up pulling it up way too early. Is going to grab that tag onto Grenout, and it seems like we now have 2 blinks remaining. We just have to get sights of Grenout to actually be able to fully commit to this, but Grenout's doing a very good job here of completely breaking all LOS, and unfortunately getting swallowed there by the rock. Is not able to commit to that blink and is now forced to run over towards the edge map once more to try and catch up to Grenout's amazing nurse running skills. They are doubling a gen. This could be a pop, and that is going to be the case, but it seems like this is not going to be as easy as they did end up planning, Edgar, because remember, now they're doubling gens. They are getting the result of well, doubling that they wanted. They're getting these gens out very, very quickly, but they have 1 gen remaining, and they currently have somebody on hook, meaning that they can no longer be doubling gens, because somebody has to be focused on resetting, someone has to be focused on healing, and if in that time there is no down, or if there is a down, it's just going to be a back and forth rebuttal of somebody being chased, somebody being saved, and someone being healed.
You're also going to have to balance your hook stages very carefully. I do believe that when Autumn Sadness went on the killer, it was a 9-stage performance, I believe. So
yes,
as the survivors here, you can't be too willy-nilly with your hook stages. You only have absolute maximum of 10 to work with. Simply put, if you have 10 stages, you lose this set, and suddenly you're down 1 against a team which, remember, hasn't won a single match in this tournament thus far. Sinners are the underdogs, of course, but this means that there isn't so much pressure on them. They just don't have as much expectations right now, as Phenom is actually going to be opting to play it a little bit safe now, dealing with Grenout instead. Esk is waiting in the wings, definitely the prime target to be getting this unhook. But the issue is that now Phenom is looking at these generators, and if they can find the one that Autumn Sadness is on, then there was absolutely 0 gen progress being done for a good hot minute.
I think he did. Well, he did find the gen that Autumn Sadness was working. Now, the only problem with said gen... Oh, wait. Interrupting me real quick. ESC is actually going to be running in to quickly grab the save, but Phantom does not have enough time to be going over to be focusing on something as silly as just a save on a Deathhook survivor. As you did mention, it is very smart to keep in mind that getting every single survivor Deathhook here and at least getting one more kill is going to be a very smart decision and actually going to be crucial for... Phantom to be able to win this set for his team. But right now he has to dry kick this gen to make sure it regresses enough, hopefully enough time for him to be able to grab it down, quickly run over with it, and with Pop Goes a Weasel, and for no one to be on it, or should I say for someone to be on it so he can actually kick it there. Because remember, passive regression is so annoying. When you dry kick a gen and they leave it to be regressing passively so you don't get your Pop Goes a Weasel value, it is so, it angers me, man. Seeing that gen and you just can't do anything to it, feeling so powerless is truly something that really can demoralize somebody in DBD. But Autumn Sadness going to be stealthing edge map here as Phantom is waiting on top of the hill trying to look and see, as it seems like Trauma is actually opting to go for the one strategy that completely throws out the window what I said earlier, Edgar. They are all stealthing while they are resetting, so they make sure that all three people are alive in this moment. A super incredibly smart decision if you ask me.
Yeah, it is going to be buying more time. Grenaut having to take the drop there, not exactly what you want, especially because, as we just saw earlier, Autumn Sadness is the balanced landing player, the one who wants to be playing around this main building. Grenaut seems to recognize that they're going to be going down here, but it's just going to be buying time, hopping in and out of the lockers, doing some ducking, dipping, diving, juking, whatever the hell you want to call it. But it's all just going to be delaying the inevitable. But meanwhile, there's the gen on the far side of the map. Now that there is a Pop Goes the Weasel in play, you're going to have to see, well...
The question is he's not going to get it.
Yes, they're going to be able to complete the gen, but now you're in a very strange spot at the survivors. If anyone gets caught, they can just be camped to death, and then that's it. That's the 9 stages, and then I believe...
No.
I believe we'd have a tie, or there's something with the fresh hooks. Someone is going to have to fact check that in the back for me real quick.
There's a problem here. An incredibly huge problem here. Yeah, okay. I was about to say. Now, people do, or like some people might question here, since they maybe haven't realized. ESC has Deli. This guy cannot be hooked right now because he's a liability to Phantom. If Autumn is to escape, that's also another fresh hook survivor, meaning that Trauma gets more points for getting that escape, and that is probably going to be enough to just put them over the edge even by a little bit. And with ESC having Deli, they could do a last second play where they go for the hatch, which Phantom is not going to have much to do about. And right now we just need to find Autumn. It does not matter if ESC ends up bleeding out. We just need to focus on trying to find the one person right now that is very important to us. But it seems like they did end up going for the pickup, which is actually going to be a very interesting play, meaning that Phantom does know where both survivors are at the current moment and can safely just hold choke to try and grab as much information as possible. And it's really the big question that is begging to be known to the world right now. Will Trauma be able to get past this choke point, and will they be able to get these outs?
These also aren't great exit gates for Phenom to have to deal with. They are... Of everything's relative on Nurse, right? The entire map is essentially your playground, but these are on kind of opposite sides of the map. You're not able to make it in 1 or 2 clean chain blinks. You're gonna have to take time to get between those, and it's a very strange margin for error right now for Phenom. Fortunately, it does at least have the visuals on both the exit gates, and seems like is going to be catching out someone over here, committing. That is going to be Esk, and again, it's what we're talking about before. Esk is the one with Deliverance anyway, and Phenom seems to almost recognize this and thinks, okay, well, I just don't want anything to do with you. I know that if I hook you, it's going to buy time for Autumn Sadness to get a gate open, you to get yourself off, and then in that borrowed time window, there's too much of a risk for you to get into the hatch or get out of the same exit gate.
This is so unfortunate, because here's the thing. And Phantom, oh my god, wait. Autumn Sadness caught completely out of bounds, going to be running in to try and pick up ESC. Is actually probably going to be the opportunity that Sinners need to try and win this. Going to be blinking up and now finding ESC, but no, this is an incredibly huge mistake here. You should be completely ignoring ESC if you can, because honestly, committing to Autumn Sadness and just getting him dead would probably be enough for you, but no, now grabbing that down onto ESC since ESC is injured and he is slugging for the 4K here, which is an even safer play, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I do think right now the chance is going to be extremely bad. Now, I do know one more thing. He has general information on Autumn's location, but not enough because they did end up double backing there around Water Tower, meaning that the pickup is going to be completely through, and thanks to Botany, they might be able to get a full reset here, which is going to be extremely bad for Sinners. He is trying to go over to see if he can interrupt it, but just one full blink here could get an injure on someone, as both people are now going to be free in this moment. They're not going to be able to commit to it. No tags just yet, as both people are going to be healthy, and that is not good for Sinners at all, ladies and gentlemen. Committing to that first blink instead of taking the M1 there for some reason, but now the life is going to be going topside. Nope, not just yet. He does know that that's a lot of distance on his blink, and he did end up getting inside of Shaq, meaning that he does have the element of surprise to his advantage. And now only forced to go topside to try and interrupt ESC. ESC probably on the gate, 25% on top of it. He's getting close, but now he's going to be leaving it ahead of time to, of course, not leave anything up to chance. But he needs to be careful. That 25% is going to be a red light on the gate, meaning that he understands. Oh, wait, is that actually him going to be found? Edgar, this is looking really tough. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's got to be. ESC has been found out right now. Is going to be hounded down. There's absolutely no way that Nurse wants to let this one go. ESC is just going to be running back towards these rocks in the meantime. But the gate is going to be open. Autumn Sadness is going to be leaving. And now there's no way for this Nurse to win out. And this is exactly what we were talking about for the Sinners. They can have such a strong performance, such a great round on Survivor, but it just doesn't really matter.
As one legendary singer once said, in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I mean, the feed is showing 12 hooks for some reason. That's not true. There were not.
It is true. It is true. Sinners won. Sinners won. Match officials. Sinners won.
Match officials, get this checked. There are 12 hook stages on the screen. But no, because of both teams matching the 9 hook stages, but because Autumn Sadness got 4 fresh hooks, that does render that Nurse performance just a little bit stronger by the tiebreaker of tiebreakers, and Trauma winning out that set. Oh, come on, Sinners. You were so close, yet so far.
Good lord, man. That was probably... honestly, that was very sad to watch, because I know Sinners definitely did try their best, but, you know, RNG was not in their favor with every single thing, like every single little thing in that match just going completely against them. Good lord. But with that being said, thank you all for watching the very first set of Sinners versus Trauma. We're going to be moving into our second one, which is going to be Mastermind, with Sinners being picked first. So maybe for once will we see Sinners finally take a set win and have a chance to finally take an entire game against a team here at DBDLeague to have their first win. But we will never know what will happen ahead of us because it is a complete surprise. So we will see you all with said surprise after our intermission and these hopefully short messages.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's West King time. We, Jason, going to be pulling it out on the Mastermind, a killer that they're pretty well known for and already going to have sights on where some of these survivors might be. Checking around the corrupted gens briefly, you know that that's where the survivors are likely going to spawn in, but eventually might want to be leaving it. You'd prefer to not have to take your chases within the corrupted generators if you're the killer, but there comes a point where you might just kind of have to understand and settle for what you can get, especially on this high ground right now. Going to be trying to utilize those dashes to cover a whole lot of distance, and is going to be finding Esk here, the player who caused so much trouble in the last round for the Sinners. And we, Jason, decides, yeah, I do not want any of that smoke right now.
I feel like that's actually going to be a bit of a 1v1 coming through from here, because remember, these two survivors have been known to annoy the killer a lot. I mean, we saw it in just our previous 2 games. Jason being the one going in there, like you said, being the glue that holds his team together, and so was ESC being the one person that keeps every single thing under control. He's like they're like both literally the masterminds, and that'd be hilarious if ESC ends up playing Mastermind right after this. But it seems like we're actually not going to be committing to ESC or the other survivor. We're instead going to be committing towards Swatter, as we do see a very, very easy tag onto Swatter right now. One tag or one bounce going to be charging up, pre-dropping that pallet, and now vaulting it over, most likely to get that life, which is a very smart play, as he does get a lot of distance on top of it. Now, whether he's going to be able to use it correctly or not is completely up to him, and it seems like Swatter is going to be running into the killer, so unfortunately, that is not going to be the case, and it's going to be the first down of the game for Jason before a gen is even close to popping, which is very, very good, Edgar.
Yeah, none of these gens honestly seem to be particularly close, at least not the one that's being doubled up here by Esk and Grenau. And yeah, Autumn Sadness also not making that much progress on their own gen. It seems like the survivors were a little more interested in doing their housekeeping, brushing up on all the totems on the map. So no more Ruin Undying to deal with. And, well, you have your very big early game power spike with all of these perks working in conjunction, Corrupt Intervention and Ruin and Undying. And now you're Wesker with Agitation. Agitation ain't bad, for sure. It certainly allows you to get your hooks more where you want them, whether you want them next to progress generators so that you can pressure them out at the same time, especially in the early game where you do intend to camp out for quite a while. At the same time, it's just agitation. It's not going to be winning you matches based off of that, you know? So the power spike for Jason is now well and firmly gone. But with the hook onto Swatter, and Swatter, who is going to be hitting second stage, this at least bodes well for the rest of Jason's matchup.
2 stage is about to be added to Swatter here very, very shortly, as now we're actually going to be committing to Autumn Sadness, as Autumn Sadness does have a lot of progress on this gen, enough to be able to commit to it, and enough for Jason to be discouraged entirely and not go back to hook to completely camp it. Going around to see if they can maybe grab that tag. They do end up grabbing it on top of Grenat. Grenat is going to be taking that very fast tag here, but instead we're going to be focusing on Swatter, making his way over towards main. Now he does make this pal safely, but dude, I have like something like stuck in my throat, and it's like threatening. Oh, Swatter not dying under pallet, and is going to be dead at 3 gens again. But maybe not over just yet, as they do have a lot of pressure on the gens here. Trauma does have this big opportunity to keep the pressure on and, of course, completely take Jason by storm. However, in this situation, they are going to be kicking that gen. Swatter is going to be dead, making it a 3v1, as we did mention just there earlier, and he is going to have a good amount of pressure on the map himself. Even with no perks right now, the only thing that he has is agitation, which, as we have talked a lot before, and in fact, even you and me, Edgar, between ourselves, we have talked about this in previous games. I'm pretty sure in Elysium match, we did see a dry agitation with no value other than itself, getting us very oppressive hooks, which is a very, very smart decision.
There's something to be said for the value of agitation compared to other perks. What's being run in this 4th slot can vary a lot. You have your 3 main regression perks, but aside from that, Wesker seems to be either going for agitation so that they can get their oppressive hooks, or they can just get their oppressive downs instead by turning around the corner, Tokyo drifting Grenat right into a wall. But as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, the other perk that Wesker seems to be going for is Brutal Strength, simply because Wesker, oddly enough, isn't that good at some of the weaker tiles in the game. At regular pallet loops, Weskers honestly don't have a whole lot that they can do when there are too many bends and curves and they aren't nice straight lines to be able to travel in. But that's not really seems to be a concern, as a nice bit of juice does come out here from Autumn Sadness, forcing the pallet drop.
Ooh.
And yeah, you tried to make the moves there, Autumn Sadness, but you got interrupted by the Wesker instead. But Jason seems to just want Grenau dead, just wants to get rid of them right now, spending far too much time on Autumn Sadness, not the target that you want to be going for. Grenau is the Golden Goose instead, and zoned out into a corner of the map, and I do not believe there's anything to work with here in the slightest.
Now, I would also like to mention, as Grenau is about to go down in the corner of the map, which is, again, a very good decision. However, I don't think there's enough pressure on these gens. Wait, maybe there is. They might be able to pop this one. He is going to have to get a hook here very quickly and be able to interrupt it, which he definitely does have time to do so. But remember, keep this in mind. This is actually going to be enough. The agitation heartbeat scare is going to be enough, as he's going to be actually hooking him at the bottom of the map. Now remember, agitation does increase a person's hit radius upon picking a survivor up, meaning that there could be a little bit of pressure being applied to the survivor simply with the heartbeat alone, but he's going to be focusing on kicking this. Now, as I was saying, Jason is considered to be the prodigy of Sinners, being the one player that can bring Sinners to the top for being such a very, very good experienced player, having so much experience on Survivor, having so much experience on Killer. It would honestly not be a surprise to me if this guy was to 4K a team like Trauma right now. But that does also come to question, what will Sinners be able to provide on a serve here? Because I do mention this a lot before, Edgar. There are so many killers, so many amazing killers like Ultra on the Unknown. Their teams have to scrim against them all the time if they want to play these sets, if they want to learn how to play these sets. And if they're so good on this killer, how are they going to perform against the enemy team's killer? Because they have to get used to one play style. Let's keep in mind Jason's Wesker playstyle. How are Sinners going to be able to play around Traumas?
With great difficulty, is what I'm going to say. I don't think that... I think that what we're seeing here from Jason is how effective the agitation is, to be honest. Again, we were briefly pondering before about what might be good as Jason. You're meant to go... You're not meant to go through the pallet, you're meant to hit the survivor instead. But that's fine, that's incidental, as there is going to be nice pressure coming from the other side of the map. But what we were talking about is that the agitation there essentially gifted the death onto Grenau. That's the struggle coming through on this regular pallet loop right now, which Esk is just going to be able to take. 50-50 is actually going to be going the way of S for now, so more time that is being bought here, but Orb of Sadness is running away. It's clear that Signal came out, that Jason has had enough of these silly little games. I mean, 7 minutes is all we can spare, right? But it seems like these survivors are taking a little bit longer than that, and Jason getting just a bit agitated.
Good lord, dude, you are so corny. Going to be chasing ESC back once more, using Skinny Bert to get through those rocks, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to Skinny Bert through those trees, as now we're going to be seeing them make their way over towards this pallet gym, which is a very strong pallet gym if you ask me, and now focusing back on the very strong Godfiller. Now this could very easily be a tag, which it is going to be the case, as he does slam against the treads, but has main building to his advantage, using that speed to make his way over towards a window, which he is going to make safely here. However, it is going to be difficult as he does end up pulling up his power, so he's not going to be committing to it. Is instead going to be going after the M1, dropping down, no bounce landing to support him, and is going to go down even with trying to vault that window to waste time. But Autumn Sadness not going to be on the gen, not trying to commit to it, is instead going to be ratting around the hill to see if they can quickly pick up ESC, which we have seen before in the nurse matches. A very smart decision that they've been able to replicate over and over as they continuously just completely run into the killer without them knowing and just make it past them. This is just a broken record at this point, because Trauma is just completely bamboozling every single one of Sinner's killers and every single one of their opportunities at this point. We do see Autumn vaulting, or was that ESC vaulting into main, Autumn on the outside, and the game just might be straightforward from here, but they do still have a chance, Edgar.
They do still have a chance. S getting picked up here is probably making the best of a bad situation here for the Survivor side. Had you not, then you would have had to try and deal with the 50-50 of... You would have had to try and deal with the 50-50 of who's going to be making it to the... Autumn Sadness? Autumn Sadness?
That's DBD comp.
That's DBD comp. Does someone need to call the esports commission? Explain what just happened there? I think we have some integrity issues, maybe. Oh well, happens to the best of us, right?
Hey, minus 10 for getting grabbed.
Minus $10,000 fine for match fixing, I guess. Anyway, I mean, you could see what Autumn Sadness was going for there, trying to utilize the life to make some distance, but it felt really odd. It felt really strange. You had Wesker on the other side of the pallet. You had dropped the pallet, they weren't able to vault it, and yet you then vault back and then try and revolt, and that barely even works with the life. You only get like 1 second of speed boost, which is, you know, barely anything. And then you just get grabbed anyway, because you mistimed it and the power had been used.
Yeah, so, it's definitely going to be a huge issue.
Credit where credit is due. This seems like a very strong 4K coming out for the Sinners. We were hyping up Jason coming into this, and it seems like that was all very well placed. Now, we do know the Sinner special, the ability to have such a strong start and then just let it all escape at the very end, but it would take a Kobe level amount of beef to mess this one up.
Definitely. Unfortunately, that is going to be the case for us here very quickly, because Sinners is going to be in a tough spot. Now, the reason I'm saying this, because remember, we're talking about Sinners serves here. I put a lot of faith on Sinners that they're going to be able to take this set, because, you know, Jason's amazing Wesker ability just got them to 4K1, and getting at least one out here is not the most impossible thing ever, you know? Now, like I said, it's Sinners survivors we're talking about, meaning that there could be a very, very easy mistake here planted by said survivors that is probably going to put them in a complete ditch. Now, somebody runs into the killer, a reset gets found out, too much pressure on a gen gets completely dissipated, or they just go continuously trading stages until they finally get a gen done, but it is way too far gone. That is something that is probably for Sinners to look out for, because honestly, it's still anyone's game here at this point, even with how good Jason did end up playing here on Wesker.
Yeah, and unfortunately, 4K1 does also seem like a relatively drawable position. Wesker is considered a higher tier killer, so you're more likely to see these. You're more likely to see 4Ks than you are with maybe some of our other killers. It could be drawable, it could be winnable, and it could be very, very losable. We're going to be back after a very, very short break. Going to be whether the Sinner survivors can take us to that tiebreaker spirit round, or whether it's going to be locked out here. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello and welcome everyone to the one and only DBD League, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your caster specTral, joined here by Edgar himself, who did end up just introducing us to the very first match here of the second set, which is going to now be the second one with Trauma on Killer instead of Sinner. Sinner's roster going to be specTral, Jason, Cafulio, and Phantom. Nothing has changed except the survivors that they were playing, opting for a more male-dominated roster. Actually going to be playing and chasing specTral first around a God Rock, which actually could be a very quick chase here, because remember, this is a very strong lead for Wesker, as we are going to see specTral is going to be taking a tag. And remember, this is SA2 EU. Sorry, I had a little bit of trash there on my throat, but it's completely cleared and all gone. So now I have hopefully a clear enough voice to be able to cast this perfectly. But now specTral in a little bit of dangers. We're going to be charging the first bound. Now second bound not going to be coming through, just trying to get distance ahead of specTral to zone them, which is a very smart decision to be using your bound. Therefore, opting to go for the long side, not playing around the check spot. Very smart decision for specTral, but now he is going to be running actually completely away over towards the hill, maximizing his distance, which is another smart play. But it seems like this could be the end of his run here, as specTral is actually able to dodge one but not two, as they do get slammed against the rock for the first chase. Very well played by specTral, but Wizzle did end up ending that there. And wait, they popped the gen within that first chase. That's way faster than what Trauma was able to perform there. That's really good for them, Edgar, and it seems like even a second one might come through.
That is true, but you also have to consider the slight difference in builds here. No Ruin Undying. Instead, it's going to be the pop remains, and it's going to get some absolutely absurd value on this generator right here, as Jason decides, I'm just going to do a little bit of toxicity in order to get the killer to hate me. Minus rep on the Steam profile of Jason, ladies and gentlemen. However, the Brutal, as we were establishing earlier, will make you a little more potent in chase, and also no one escapes death. Now, the issue you're running into is that, as Wizzle, you do not want to reach the endgame, because if you've reached the endgame, you've already lost. If you recall, last matchup ended with Jason on the Sinner's side, securing that 4K with one generator remaining. By the time the no-hit comes into play, like, yeah, you've already lost. The reason some people might be considering, to prevent any kind of disadvantages or going second, or any advantages of going second, more so to speak, the builds are locked in before the match even begins. So Wizzle clearly had the idea that this would go to the endgame and was expecting that from the survivor side as well. However, didn't quite get there. And so instead, what you have to deal with is this situation where you are down your Noed the entire game.
Clearly did not expect to see the one and only powerful Wee Jason a 4K at 1 gen. What?
The gens are flying, bro. What's happening?
I'm telling you, man, it seems like on the other side they actually have an experienced mechanic and not a bunch of hillbillies that only are sticking their hands inside of a motor for no reason and trying to figure out whether something.
I'd argue hillbilly's pretty good. I'd argue hillbilly's
Honestly,
right.
yeah, I feel like hillbilly's the only hillbilly that actually is a slightly decent mechanic. After all, it is a farm boy, and he does know his way around chainsaws, so honestly would not be surprised.
Really fast. He can also run
unbelievably
really
fast. I'm surprised the guy's never entered any sports. No, he'd probably be like Quasimodo from the Hunch of Notre Dame. People would laugh at him instead of actually being entertained at his insane abilities, you know?
What are we talking about?
Notre Dame, blah blah blah. DBD, sorry.
Dead by Daylight, yes. Wizzle is going to be so opted away from that corner gen with this one so much pressure, and now already Wizzle simply cannot win this game with 4 generators being completed, popped so quickly, and with 3 survivors remaining, it's almost impossible for the draw to actually come through here. So, I mean, it's not happened yet, but it is almost all but confirmed that Sinners are going to be able to manage this, and maybe you think that Wizzle's choice of Noed, obviously hindsight is 2020, but the choice is a little bit of a mistake on reaching the end game. I mean, I guess here's a question, specTral. Even if you don't have the benefit of hindsight, is it wise to be taking Noed on a killer like Wesker? Because that means that you are kind of implying that you imagine that you're going to get to the end game. And Wesker's a strong enough killer where a half time you should never get there.
Yeah, I feel like a very, very, very good play to tell a lot of people is, for God's sake, please do not at all play expecting to be weak. You always have to play expecting your strongest, aka you're expected. If you're a very strong killer, please play around the fact that you are most likely going to 4K, because right now we're seeing that big example. There was no perk there able to support him in any way, shape, or form that would at least let him, because remember, Noed is an endgame perk, and of course you have so much opportunity. You have a lot of perks to your disposal to be able to use effectively against the survivors, like Pop Goes the Weasel, which honestly wasn't a bad pick, but Ruin and other things, you know, Noed's just kind of a wasted slot, and now we're seeing Cafulio go down because of Noed, but it's already too late. Cafulio doesn't even have to, you know, care about the fact that we're actually looking at his down here, and very, very quickly at that, and yeah, 4K0 doesn't mean anything. They've already been 4K'd at 1. Sinners does take the set, which is very, very good for them, as now they're going to have a chance to take that tiebreaker set. But that does also bring up the question, how are they going to fare in their tiebreaker set? It's a Spirit.
Yeah, Spirit, I'm not entirely familiar with who on these teams plays the Spirit, but it's not something that we've actually been seeing a lot recently. I know that Rayoxian would be very happy to be here casting the Spirit set, however, got the other one instead. Unlucky, I guess, you snooze, you lose kind of situation. It might be interesting to kind of have a look at the balancing. The balancing of Spirit is considered a tier 1 killer, so is going to have same kind of rule limits as you would on characters such as Hillbilly, Blight, and Nurse. That involves the survivors being allowed certain perks, such as that allows the survivors being allowed a lot of very strong perks, such as their deliverances, their decisive strikes, their deadards. Though, actually, interestingly enough, for Spirit itself, Deliverance is not going to be allowed. Neither are any kind of perks which are going to be able to mess with the Spirit's ability to track you down. So no Iron Will, no Lightweight, no Light-Footed, Parental Guidance, anything like that to allow yourself to stealth out a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how these teams are willing to adapt to what is kind of uncharted territory. And specTral is gone. Okay, never mind then. Well, okay then. Game is going to be ending up here, and you have to give credit where it's due to Sinners for putting in such a strong performance. I mean, It was one on the killer side. Jason was just simply too strong. We really saw the value of agitation here. We were talking about the debate between those perks earlier, and if this is any indication that agitation can do you absolute wonders by giving you really oppressive hooks to have to deal with over brutal strength, which is going to buy you a little bit more time on certain pallet loops, the difference seems night and day. So we are going to be going into our tiebreaker set next on the Spirit. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back very shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, Sinners are on the precipice of taking their first set of the tournament today, but Wizzle may just have something to say about it on the Spirit instead. I am Edgar, joined by specTral, and already we see Wizzle going for a very cheeky hit there, trying to get that one through. Looking at the build, it's nothing totally unexpected. There is going to be the combo of that agitation alongside the Gift of Pain, so not a Scourge hook that we see all that often. That is going to allow some slowdown on healing, which is always going to be beneficial for the Spirit. And then even if you do actually get that heal off, then that survivor is going to suffer a little bit of a gen slowdown penalty at the same time. But you need to get your first hit in, and you need to get it in soon, and there it is, onto Cthulhu. Spirit against a completely uninjured, healthy survivor isn't going to be all that effective, but once the survivor is injured, they start leaking blood, they start making a whole lot of noise. It's almost too easy. It's almost too easy to lock them down. You need to avoid that first hit against Spirit at all costs, but when they're phasing around the map, going here, there, absolutely bloody everywhere, it could just be far too difficult to deal with.
Definitely, man. And now we're actually going to be seeing Wizzle grabbing that first down onto Cthulhu, which honestly, I do want to mention, it seems like Wizzle might have a slight bit of an EQ, because I know for a fact spectator POV is sometimes a little bit louder than the actual POV of some in-game players. Now, unsure as to whether Wizzle uses an EQ or not, and I know a lot of people have, brought that to question.
Such a fast heal.
Good.
Such a fast heal onto
that might have been like we'll make it with medkit, or maybe like desperate. I'm unsure at all. I mean, I'd love to go check, but right now we got to keep our focuses on this guy right now being chased with Deadhard and DS also in the question. Maybe going to be looking at a very quick chase here, but of course an even longer output, because right now, I mean, keep in mind we're looking at oh my, wait, he makes that? That is insane. Now coming in with support from his survivor teammate. That's going to be Phantom taking a tag right now for Cthulhu. Cthulhu's not going to be taking distance. Instead going to be pre-dropping this pallet. Very good play there. Pre-dropping it on the right side as they are completely lost. But now forced into a 50-50 situation with not any time left on their DS for it to matter. And it is going to run out, meaning that Cthulhu is just going to have to save it for the second state, which arguably, Edgar, is so much better than using it on the first state, especially in the situation we're in right now. As we're looking at 2 gens popped, pressure about to be going off onto these gens. However, it is starting freshly, so not too much for Trauma to be completely, considered out of the game just yet. But this is definitely a super big chance for Sinners to actually take this set, especially with the situation they're in.
I'm actually really interested there as to why Cthulhu didn't use the Deadhard. Did have it on account of already having been on the hook. I don't believe had used the bounce landing and was already exhausted, and with the lunge there was plenty of time to react, so it seemed more like a conscious decision to not use Deadhard. But that could look quite a risky final chase, because you only have so much time that decisive strike is going to last. Now, we do know that Cthulhu is the prime target, right? That's without a shadow of a doubt, but if in chase you end up using that Deadhard, you could end up almost making too much time and then not having the decisive strike to be able to deal with now. Now, with the hits coming through onto Jason, Cthulhu is still going to be the one that Wizzle wants to deal with. And going down on this pallet is going to have the decisive strike for this pickup, so not really going to be mining for the time being. And I guess the idea is to now use the Deadhard when
because he doesn't know.
On top of him. Yeah.
He doesn't know. He didn't know because the last chase didn't include Deadhard, meaning that he's going to have a chance to hit it off right now, but he's going to need it. No Deadhard coming through, and that's Cthulhu going down without being able to use the one perk that would have saved him there so much.
Good lord, that is actually going to be very unfortunate for Sinners, as the the idea of a perfect game was not shown to us here because of that one dead hard play, which is going to be so unfortunate, Edgar, because honestly, I would like to blame it on Ping, but it looked like he had so much time there to react, you know? That's just so unfortunate.
I mean, blink and you miss it, I guess, and now Whistle's able to just pile the pressure onto everyone else. Jason and Phenom are injured up. If they do get put on any of these Scourge, they are going to have to deal with the Mangled as well, which is just going to be even more time wasted if you do want to heal them up. Jason, I mean, you already saw the effects from Jason dealing with that damage, and Phenom this time just getting caught out in a very interesting spot. Regression does come through onto one of the generators with Eruption. Phenom is going to get this hook through, but Sweet Child has the gen that they themselves are working on, which is about 70-80% completed now, likely going to be done any second now. And what do we think about this Gift of Pain decision? Obviously, you are restricted as a killer, but why Gift of Pain here, as opposed to maybe a different kind of allowed
just
regression?
Sloppy Butcher. I mean, Gift of Pain. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people, holy Edgar, let me mention this. A lot of people talk smack about a lot of the casters here because they say, oh, but these guys don't play the game or they don't understand how this works. We don't see these perks. Like, this is the first time I've ever seen Gift of Pain. Like,
that is true. When is the last time you've seen Gift of Pain in a pub map? It doesn't really matter. The point is, I guess it tries to combine the anti-healing effect of Sloppy Butcher as well as a little bit of extra gen regression. All things that work pretty well, especially with the hemorrhage, to also give yourself some more pools of blood to look at, which is always going to be valuable on the Spirit, where you have to rely not so much on where the survivors are, but any marks, any blood trails they may be leaving, as well as the sound of their screams. And using it very effectively there to catch David in the act, put Jason on the hook, and tag them up with the effects of the Gift of Pain as well.
Now, one thing I do need to mention, and actually keep in mind, this is a 3-gen, and this is not an easy 3-gen to play around. We're looking at a Spirit on a 3-gen where the 3-gens are, I can't really say numbers, but they are fairly close to each other, with one or two of them being on the corner of the map and one of them being in Shack. It's so close to each other. It's just a tight net of just phasing a little bit more and more, and just over and over again until they finally find the survivor in an easy chase. It's just continuously chipping away at the survivors. That's the strategy that Whistle's going for. And that's a very smart strategy if you ask me, because eventually you're going to find situations like this where Jason and Phantom are going to be completely resetting, and Sweet Child's going to be completely found out of position, as now we're actually going to be looking at them completely running over towards the opposite side of the map, forced into a phase walk right now, as we're actually going to be seeing them move over towards the edge filler. Now, a bit of a mistake on Whistle's side, as they did not see them and actually understand that that was not the edge filler that they wanted to go to, but Sweet Child is actually going to go down and not going to be able to drop that pallet in time, waiting for the eruption, as the survivors are seemingly not going to be resetting just yet, unless that's Gift of Pain reducing it by a considerable amount, which actually seems to be the case, as now is going to be an opportunity for Whizzle to find the reset, which does end up happening. Going to be running into the killer, phasing in and out of reality. The Spirit is going to sneak up on Jason, which is going to be incredibly unfortunate. Now going to be vaulting the window and chasing after them, as they're going to be going over towards the T-wall and over towards the truck. Wait, maybe opting to use there is no edge tile, and tries to spin him there, but unfortunately Jason is going to go down, and that is going to be another hook added to Whizzle's stages.
It's all on Phenom. It's all on Phenom now. Phenom has to do the absolute Lord's work right now. He's going to be doing it, picking up Sweet Child. But now what? Do you have the time to reset? Do you want to try and bully out some gens some more? Do you want to just go into the corner of the map and cry and give up because Whizzle is putting on such a clinic right now? As you said earlier, this 3-gen is so brutal to have to deal with, and it's that constant back and forth battle of, do you take the time to reset and let the gens regress all the way with Eruption? Or do you just try and bully them out and leave yourself so vulnerable? Jason is actually going to get unhooked right now, but this is almost just going to guarantee another bit of impact here to try and select which is the correct locker. No more decisive strike. No more decisive strike here. So that is just going to be Jason dying there.
Good
I mean, hey,
lord.
you toss. Hey, Wizzle tossed the coin and guessed correctly, I suppose. But it's creative from the survivors to force Wizzle into that 50-50, I guess.
I'm not gonna lie, that was actually really funny because we don't see
Like, keep in mind, um, I'd like to say that DBD League is the most diverse league I've ever seen when it comes to plays like these, because I've never seen these plays even in other tournaments. Because, and people consider DBD League to be the most serious tournament. Do not get me wrong, it is. But that does not mean that we have not seen things like this before. I mean, we've seen like this in pubs. This is not a pub match. This is a comp match. This is customs. And right now we're seeing these people doing these super silly plays. It's so amazing to watch. It adds a lot of, good lord. Let me finish my thought. It adds a lot of brightness. It just makes it more comfortable. Because we want to see a serious game, but that doesn't mean, like, in a serious game, if you see somebody do a funny play, you gotta laugh at it. It lightens the mood, you know? But now, Wizzle does grab the down onto Phantom, Sweet Child being the last survivor standing, meaning that they are actually not going to be found here, as they're on the completely opposite side of the map, which is very good for Sweet Child now. Whether Sweet Child decides to go for the save or not is a complete question that is actually brought up to all of us. That is smart.
Gotta heal up first with inner strength. That's going to be a pretty wise play there. Having yourself healthy means that you have more options. You can kind of force yourself through to get the pick up onto Phenom, should you so wish. There's also the option of the fact that you are now... It's a lot easier to hide. You're not going to be making any noise. You're not going to be emitting any blood pools. If instead you want to hide and make a play for the hatch, that's also doable, as Wizzle priorities right now are not allowing that to happen, trying to find Sweet Child, put an end to this here and now, get as many stages as you can out of this. But it's gonna be a long day at the office. Something's got to give. Either Sweet Child is going to get found here by Wizzle, who seems to be pretty dangerously close. I mean, when Sweet Child got rid of that totem, it did kind of ping where they were. Right now, it's been a hot minute since then, but Wizzle seems to be looking around that area. Sweet Child instead just slowly trying to move out of it.
Now, this could be difficult. This could be very difficult, because now we're seeing Wizzle walk into the area that Sweet Child is in. Will Sweet Child be found out, or will they be able to stealth? Oh my god, he's literally at that wall right there. No way, he moved even further. This is much more risky. Oh, but he doesn't get found. This is amazing.
This is a horror film. specTral, this is a horror film from
Oh
the
my
survivor
god.
POV. like hearing that phase and not knowing, yes,
whether
like,
they're going closer to you or not. Oh my
yeah,
god.
like like a spirit phase is somewhat directional, always has been, but like it's still really
not
strange
that
to think exactly. Yeah, it's not that great. It's just terrifying to hear the phase noise, not know really where it is. Phenom has been found again on the floor. Wizzle seems to be committing here, so wants to get this hook. He's actually going to be taking it closer. He's actually going to be taking it closer to the shack, simply so that there is the option to shut the hatch whenever it need be. I do believe that there is an offering on to spawn the hatch at the shack. The issue you have is that both the survivor and the killer knows this.
Now, a big play that could be done here is something that we've seen in comp a lot, and it's very well known as one thing: body blocking. Now, whether they're going to be able to body block each other or not is completely up to this side, because we do know Killer has ultimate priority no matter what. The most extreme priority over the survivor when they're on top of the hatch. Now going to be seeing Sweet Child in front of Wizzle. This actually could be a block. This is a complete 50-50 on deciding whoever gets inside of the hatch, and it seems like it is going to be Sweet Child as they stand up and body block them perfectly. Good lord, very well played. Sinners getting a 1 out there, and that is actually crucially what they're going to need there roughly to win, because Spirit can be a 4K killer, and even with that tough 3-gen, that is something that is going to get the cave in such a good position for them. That might just be what they need to take this tiebreaker and finally win their first game, but that is going to be very, very difficult, because I'm not going to lie to you, man. This is Trauma we're talking about, and they are fairly good against Spirit, so we're going to have to see how Sinners is going to respond to this, and who is actually going to kill for the side of Sinners. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for the very first game of the tiebreaker. We will see you with the second game after our intermission and these hopefully short messages. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to officially yet unofficially the final game of DBD League, as we are watching not the final game, not as in like grand finals, but final game of this game of Sinners versus Trauma. Now, very exciting matches. This is actually going to be a very difficult win condition. Edgar, if you'd like to update us on what exactly the win condition is, because I'm honestly gonna admit to you right now, I had it in my head and then it just completely disappeared.
So from what I recall, the Sinner survivors, they managed to have 9 hook stages with 4 generators completed and 3 fresh hooks. So what we're looking at for Jason, to guarantee your win, a 4K with 1 gen remaining, that would get you the win. If you're the survivors, you're essentially looking to complete all 5 generators. Things can get a bit more complicated than that if we're dealing with more hatch work again, if we're dealing with some other shenanigans, but right now the simple thing is this. If the 4K can come out with only 1 generator remaining, then Jason wins this, and Sinner take their first win of the entire tournament so far. If not, if all of the generators are completed, then it is going to be Trauma dashing their hopes here just a little bit. But with an Inja coming out onto Grenau here, you have to be feeling pretty good if you're a Sinners fan. This is a pretty strong start to get off with. You've already gotten your hook onto Autumn Sadness, but now you're actually chasing Grenau. Is there a reason that you're chasing Grenau here and not necessarily going for the tunnel out on Autumn Sadness, as would be the standard?
Probably going to be just going for the fresh hooks, because remember, now, I do need to mention this. Incredibly important if this does work out in his favor. Jason doesn't have to 4K. I mean, he could let somebody get out through hatch at 1 gen remaining. Now, the question is, how many stages is that survivor going to have? They did get a complete fresh hook out of through the hatch. So meaning that if the survivor that gets out through hatch in this game has even 1 hook on top of them, that's going to be a win for the Sinners, and is finally going to be the ultimate decider, something that we finally need. But a big difficulty has been presented to us as we are looking at so much pressure coming through on top of these gens. Now Trauma is actually looking at an even easier state as they do end up breaking Hex Ruin, which is actually probably going to be enough for them to pop these gens. 1 gen's about to pop, another one is coming a long way, dropping medkit down for some reason, but it seems like that 1 gen that we were talking about is about to be interrupted as Jason does end up hooking ESC right very close to where Swatter is currently, chilling at. He's right now over at the dumpsters, and Jason does not know anything about that because he's checking the wrong side, and they have completely stealthed away, which is very, very good of Swatter. Now, 2 gens have popped, meaning that 3 gens are remaining, 2 stages on the board, and there is still a lot of potential for this game to actually go anywhere. But one slight mistake here from both sides, Edgar, is really going to be the ultimate decider, I feel like, because if just, let's see, somebody messes up a 1-for-1, or Jason commits way too long in a chase, or ends up missing a swing, or ends up missing his tunnel out, that's probably going to be the ultimate decider here. I mean, we've seen it so much before.
And honestly, I feel like as the survivors here, your biggest thing is to just avoid the 3 gen at all costs. The survivors in the last game, honestly, were putting up a pretty good showing until it got to that last generator, and they clearly hadn't managed the gens well enough, were stuck in a really horrific 3 gen, and they simply couldn't put any more pressure on, and they got... It's almost like a godsend that they actually got that, it's almost a bit of a godsend that at the very end of it, they managed to get the hatch play to come through, right? Anyway, Jason still going to be moving around here, utilizing that eruption now that Ruin is gone, so you're never going to be out of regression here if you're Jason. You had your Ruin for the early game, and now as we get more into the mid-game of things, Esk actually hitting second stage. Esk hitting second stage. Grenau is going to be spotted out here. 1-for-1 trade on this hook going to be quite likely, unless Grenau just doesn't, I guess. And now over here you have a survivor occupied not on a gen, a survivor hooked, 2 gens which can't be worked on because of the pressure coming out. I mean, surely Grenau just has to go for the 1-for-1 here.
But this is actually going to prove to be an issue as now 3 gens have exploded. Or sorry, was that 3 or just 2? Honestly, I didn't pay attention. I was stuck thinking about a potential 3-gen eruption. But now, brought to us, Grenout is going to be slugged. Very good play there from ESC, but the Dead Hard does end up coming out, and there's not going to be any. Wait, what? How does that miss, and how does that not get it down? 2 gens now remaining as the 3rd gen does end up popping. Last gen remaining as he's now actually required to get a, just a win out of this. He needs to keep this 3-gen, and he does have an actually fairly good 3-gen. Now, one of them is farther, and it's not the same one as before, but Edgar, I think this is possible. It's just going to have to require a lot of effort.
Whatever amount of money that we're paying Jason isn't enough. Needs to absolutely go off the goop here in order to get the win out. Grenell gonna be stalling for a little bit longer in this corner, and now every single second counts. If Jason can get these kills through, if Jason is able to get these kills through, then it's good. But Swatter actually has deja vu on this middle gen as we're approaching 70% progress over there. The Ada is going to be crouching in the center now. Eruption can... Yeah, they're playing very safe right now, Survivors. They know their win condition. They only need a single generator completed in order to take this series. And actually going to be getting the rescue through onto Grenell. Now you just need to have some good chases that can last you for a while, you know? But now that you're leaving the pressure from these Survivors, it means that they're able to split up and even work on some of these further gens as well, and just give Jason too many things to have to think about.
This is actually very difficult because I just realized something. He doesn't have pressure on any Survivor in this moment. I mean, you've already said this, but like, we need to put more emphasis on the fact that right now he's just completely lost sight of both Grenell, Autumn Sadness, and now grabbing and tag onto Swatter. Only a chance as that gen is still regressing. This is actually exactly what he needs, but no, he's not going to be committing to Swatter. Instead, he's going to be going after Grenell. Grenell always in the corner of the map, stuck behind a pallet. Now going to be shown out using what seems to be Sprint Burst to get a lot of distance, which is actually going to be Sprint Burst. He's making his way over towards a much safer tile, but just trying to get further away from the gen. Vaulting that, he's going to go down. Eruption affecting that gen. That's going to be explosion and the regression of 7%, but they're resetting. Wait, this is slightly, no, I'd like to say this is more of a tie in game standards because, you know, they get 2 resets out, someone's on hook. There's not exactly too much pressure on the Survivors at the moment, thanks to them not being injured, but there's also a regression going out on the gens, so it's kind of just like a draw. He still does have to play careful, however, because, you know, draws don't exactly mean that it is in your favor. Right now, Swatter looking to rat out this gen with Deja Vu. Since 3 gens are remaining, every single gen that they work on will have a bunch of speed on top of it. And with that being said, Edgar...
no. They found the Ada, and this is so key because remember what we were talking about, the fresh hooks. Ada is that last fresh hook. Essentially, if Ada gets hooked here, which is going to happen, okay, the draw is no longer possible. Put simply, this game cannot be drawn. Is actually not going to go for the unhook on Swatter. There's a For the People out onto Grenell with Autumn Sadness taking the injury. What world are we living in, specTral? I'm losing my mind. I thought I was ill by today just by virtue of getting out of bed, but no, this gameplay, like, what's happening?
I have no idea, bro. I'm honestly completely lost. This is exactly what Sinners needs. They're about to win this, but here, I do also want to mention, thanks to one of our lovely staff members here mentioning it to us via a message, we are seeing that Ada is the ultimate decider for this game. As if they want to get a tie, Ada cannot be found here. And that's also saying that Ada is an actual fresh hook, meaning that if they are going to get 4K'd here, they need to get her out no matter what, and that is going to be difficult with her injured, and that is also going to be difficult with Jason having this insane amount of pressure on top of these gens. Now chasing after Autumn Sadness, which could be a very quick chase, but unfortunately he's not going to have enough phase to commit to it. Swatter is going to be healed, and now moving in towards Shaq to make sure that it is regressing. It is, and now we have to look for our other Survivors, who are most likely going to be moving over towards this side of the map to try and do it. But dude, this hill is so good. Like, that RNG could not be more perfect, man.
It also helps that Swatter, who, interestingly enough, is, as we say, the one Survivor right now who cannot be found, is also running Urban Evasion. Just to be extra stealthy, a little more harder to detect, can get around the map with some ease, hide from weak Jason. So the panic is now over. Swatter didn't end up getting hooked despite going down, so a little bit of a beef from weak Jason there. I mean, it's not like we figured out that, you know, the 3 stages onto Swatter would win Sinners the game. So maybe the survivors didn't either. But point is, Swatter's fine and healthy, and this game is slowing down to an agonizing crawl right now. Something has got to give between these sides. It seems like the gen progress on both these sides is just going to be falling to about 0% on the whole side.
Yeah, and now looking
Oh,
at
you've been
Swatter and
fouled.
Chase, this could be a very, very, very bad case for Trauma to actually get this out, because remember, Swatter is the one survivor that they cannot have currently hooked, but they do have a chance to get at least the last gen done, and for them to get at least a 1 out through the gate, because I feel like even they want to guarantee it as much as possible. They definitely don't want to put it as close as before. Now, this is a big opportunity. Swatter is wasting a lot of time here with this one jungle gym pallet. Now going to be phasing, using his crouch against him. Swatter wins another 50-50. Now forced to leave and go back towards his gens, which might not even be enough time, because remember how far away these gens are. Shaq does not have enough progress for Jason to be worried at all, but now going to be forced to go on top of the hill to see which gen is bringing progress. That is going to be the gen all the way over there. Wait, no. Not enough.
There's barely any progress. They're playing so safe right now, specTral. They do
But way
not
too safe.
Yeah, I mean, like, Swatter was doing absolute miracles in that chase, but the gen pressure not there from Altstanus or Grenout. Obviously, everything that we're saying about Swatter being the golden goose, the one that cannot get hooked, that doesn't mean anything if, sorry, with Swatter being the one who can't get hooked. If Altstanus and Grenout are able to complete a gen in that time frame that Swatter is absolutely juicing the killer, it doesn't matter. And now Grenout is going to be dead, and now you only have 2 more survivors remaining, and things are looking worse and worse for Trauma right now.
Definitely.
This is still anyone's game, but the pendulum is swinging very solidly in the favor of Sinners.
This is definitely not going to be easy. And I say that with confidence because the survivors are way too passive at this moment. Now, a lot of people need to know that playing... Oh my god.
Oh, no.
No. But wait. This isn't the worst thing. Remember, they still do have the chance to tie. Because Autumn is being chased. But
yeah,
wait.
Autumn's the one that's being chased, but, like...
Slugging.
This is assuming... Yeah, this is assuming that as Spirit also learns how to teleport a la the nurse, I mean, I was going to say, do you think that Jason would be happy to just give this up and not find where Swatter is, not hunt him down to the ends of the earth?
No.
This game is getting more and more bizarre world as time goes on. It is really coming down to the wire. It is a game of inches right now. Swatter needs to hide for all of Autumn Sadness's bleed out timer, and then also needs to win the hatch 50-50. Again, assuming that Swatter doesn't get caught in this time. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at a best case scenario tie right now for Trauma. This game is solidly in the hands of the Sinners. They are so close to taking this series. They are so close to taking their first win of the tournament, causing a huge upset here today. And it is coming down to the absolute wire, specTral. Enough with Swatter!
Oh my god, Swatter gets found out at the last second. Now, in a very dire situation, requiring to at least get up and somehow maybe get this back. That is not going to happen with such an amazing face.
Sinners! They did it! Sinners have won! Sinners 0-4 coming into this matchup. 0-4.
Pay up. You said you were all for Trauma, and I said I was all for Sinners. See, I put love out there to my South Americans. Obviously, they probably don't speak the same language as me, but hey, hopefully we both know Spanish, right? Well played. Good Lord.
I don't even know what's happening anymore, man. Look, point is, Sinners have gotten their first win of the tournament. Now, it might be a consolation prize at the end of the day. It did come in it did come in rather late. What impact it will have on the grand scheme of things is likely to be relatively insignificant, but a win is a win at the end of the day, and Sinners are going to be so happy about this one. Like, you can just tell, and finishing this up as well with the pick onto Autumn Sadness to secure that 4K at the very end right now. Really phenomenal play from Wee Jason, but also I feel like the Trauma Survivors, they almost played a bit too safe, you know? Like, yes, you understand that you have to be protecting Swatter. That's without a shadow of a doubt. But also, Swatter was doing so well in chase, and there was time for Autumn Sadness and Grenout to finish a gen on the other side of the map and get the win. But they didn't do it. That's a universe which we're not looking into right now. And congratulations to Sinners for their win.
That was such an amazing match, man. All of the, I mean, we saw such a sad performance on Nurse, but then a really, really dominating performance in the Wesker set, and then now a clutch comeback on their Spirit set. That has just got to be one of the most, or sorry, should I say, one of the best matches I've ever seen here at DBDLeague. I mean, finally, we're seeing an underdog take an actual game against a very well-known team. It's just very, very, very happy to see, man. And I do know for a fact Sinners are probably going to be busting out the champagne, drinking, and celebrating a very, very well-deserved win after such a tough performance.